it's a great time to do some upgrades. Got the Alaska Bush Wheel 29s. Ooh, speaking of heavy, what do you think? Looks pretty good. Can't believe it's already been a year. More than a year for the airworthiness inspection for the Backcountry Bogey. A little under a year for my first flight, but regardless, I've got it pulled apart because guess what? It is inspection time. Got my repairman certificate and I figured it's a great time to do some upgrades. So we've got the Alaska Bush Wheel Net 29s, not the Airstreaks. Airstreaks are only good to 1,700 pound gross weight. This is 1,800 pounds. So running into an issue though. Got the jack lugs from RANS, but you can see when I get the fatties on there, this jack's not gonna reach anymore. So I think I've got an idea. One idea we had was to use these, built by Mr. Rosen of Rosen Visors. He lives not too far away, and a friend of mine bought his NX Cub. He built these beefy things. Look how beefy these are and heavy. To fit under the struts. So the main gear struts of an NX Cub are a little bit flatter than these. And he would just jack that thing up because he didn't want to deform the bush wheels while it sat for a while. So he took the pressure off the bush wheels, went home, came back, released the airplane down, and went flying. But unfortunately, as you can tell, the angle won't work. I can't take credit for this idea. Thanks, Darren. Great idea. All right, let's beef this up a little bit. Before I start screwing these two 2x6 together, let me show you what Alaska Bush Wheels gives you. First off, I got the 29s. Like I said, I got them full price, $19.39 with classic tread. They come with the STC if you need it for a production airplane. And then they've got just kind of these inspections, serial numbers, weights, max PSI. And then there's a big warning here, so don't go getting all happy and inflating them to even just 4 PSI. You got to limit of 1 PSI before they're actually mounted, or else you're going to do damage. The only accessories I have so far are the valve stem plugs, $4.40. Those are these guys. I'll show you what I need them for, as well as these came with it regardless of, you didn't have to purchase these. These are the Schrader valves with a tool. You can see here the valve stem right there. It's away from the wheel, right? So let's move that out of the way. I'm using the existing 6-inch MATCO clamshell wheels, 2-piece wheels, of which, of course, you can see the valve stem plug right there, which needs to be plugged up. So I've got the MATCO diagram right here because it's going to take a little bit of a disassembly of the brakes to get the wheels off. We're in there. So I didn't make it full width because when we take the weight off the spring gear, clearly these guys are gonna spring back down a little bit. And so it looks like it's not holding very much right now, and it's not. But again, once we take weight off, it's gonna compress. That's the theory anyway. Safety first. So it's supporting all the red and not touching any of the brake caliper. Let's check it over here. Those are in there to prevent, forward and aft slippage. And I like the branding. All right, I gotta actually lower it because I can't get to these bolts. I gotta get to the brake pads to remove the wheel. Let me address the gunk right here. I used an acceptable but not a great sealant on these threads. I'm gonna take pretty much everything, my whole hydraulic system, brake system, out and replace it with a better thread sealant. I'll get to that in a different episode, but that explains the gunk. It's seeping out of the manifold inside the cockpit and getting on the floor and whatnot. So it's getting to be a mess. And I haven't had any issues with the brakes other than it's seeping out of these. So we're gonna get that fixed. Need some obvious cleaning. I'm gonna repack these with grease, of course. Looks pretty clean though. Grab onto. So I eventually got it. Ended up just heating it up and just kind of standing on the sides, and eventually each side broke loose. But everything looks good. I'm just amazed how secure everything was, how much air these held without a tube. But these are tubeless as well. But again, it doesn't require this seal between these two halves, because they are already sealed. Ooh. Speaking of heavy, I'm gonna weigh both of these. I already know this is 33 and change, but let's just weigh them together because we need to do a new weight and balance. Okay, first up, the Aero Classic 8.5 is 8.8. 31.7. That's a lot. So I'm gonna start with the valve stems on the outside of the wheels. Be pretty easy to fill them up from the inside of the aircraft as well. Looking online, people are like, well, you want to rotate these tires. So I was thinking, well, if I just rotate the tires, valve stems are still going to be on the outside, but that also doesn't help for wear. So I think we're going to be rotating the tires on the hub probably every other year, something like that, depending on the wear. If you watched me build the airplane, this is my No Mar tire mount lubricant. Now, before with tubeless tires where you gotta break the bead, you know, we kind of strapped the wheels down and inflated it with air. That's clearly not going to be a option today, so there might be standing on this. Alaska Gear Company has a really nice video about how that plug is supposed to go, just like that. And clearly you're not letting air out. That's not a factor. You're just preventing dirt and debris from getting inside there. All right, time to put this on the floor. There we go. Wasn't too bad. Okay, we've got these torqued to 100 inch-pounds per MATCO, and it doesn't look like it's fully seated yet, so clearly it needs some inflation. So we're gonna go ahead and inflate it, noting that the maximum inflation for these tires are 20, and I saw somewhere that you want to have your regulator set to no more than twice that. So I've got my regulator set to 40, so it's not going to be a huge impact on these things, but let's go. Oh, there's some inflation. I don't know if it's going to pop. They're pretty well lubricated, and there wasn't a huge pop when I got the first one in, so okay. It's definitely not 20. Okay, we got pressure. It is about 8, which is probably plenty. So let's just call it good at 8. All right, these are looking good, but I still need to get the disc in there. And then I'm gonna repack the bearings and then get them on, but that is tomorrow. I'm beat. I think it'd be smart to lower it before I go home, just to make sure that it doesn't lower without me and suddenly. So let's. What do you think? Looks pretty good. I wish I could roll it out and give the money shot, but I got everything taken apart for condition inspection, but I do want to debrief this real quick. So the left wheel had a little bit more difficulties with, and I didn't record it. This is the longest bush wheel installation probably ever because I've just been working a lot more than I typically do. But the issue I had was removing the disc from the wheel. So I've got MATCO 6-inch wheels, and MATCO has been awesome. They're available for some technical support, and I ended up stripping this Torx screw. There's 3 of which hold on the disc rotor to the wheel, as well as it's got some Nordlock washers. And I thought it was a T25 bit required. Ends up it was a T27. So I eventually got them out, ordered some new bolts, and got the disc in and then the wheel. So the benefits and drawbacks of Alaska bush wheels versus other wheels, you know, I'm going to take some flack for the increased drag and weight, and I want to address that real quick. So there's plenty of other folks that will do a better job talking about bush wheels and the benefits. I haven't flown it yet, so I can't really talk to it smartly, but my decision process was, first off, I started looking at the Airstreaks from Alaska bush wheels because they're essentially the same dimensions as these 29s. There's also 26 Airstreaks, but they're a lot less rubber, and so they're only certified to a lot lower of a weight. So 2 of them, max gross weight 1,700 pounds. There's guys flying these with Airstreaks with an 1,800 pound gross weight. It's experimental. You can do it. They're having no issues. But I just went beefy and just wanted to have that extra gross weight. The gross weight increase is going to be about 40 pounds total. I still have yet to do all the calculations of weight and balance, but a couple things I'm thinking of. A, lowers the CG a little bit, which is always a good thing in a high wing plane with gas up in the wings. The added drag will definitely hurt me, but as I evidenced last year, the only time I went long distance was to Oshkosh. It's an hour and a half to the east side of Oregon, maybe a little over 2 hours. It's going to add like 10 minutes to my time of flight into the backcountry. And then when I'm there, I'm flying with Cubs, so I've got it pulled way back anyway. So the reduced speed, I'm not super concerned about. Yeah, less useful load, absolutely. That's a thing that I'm just going to have to deal with. Okay, the benefits are huge. First off, I think they look cool. You know, you get a little bit of cred rolling up in these things versus the little 22s that I had before. But obviously that's way down the list. The main thing is safety, right? You have an added safety margin landing on rough terrain. That goes without saying. Now, that goes with a caution. I can't be lured into landing on something that I'm not ready to land on. I can't be overconfident. So I'm very aware of that, and I'm going to continue my crawl, walk, run approach to all of the backcountry flying, knowing that this is an added temptation to land on a gravel bar that I don't have any business going in and out of. So I'll keep that front in mind. I'll keep you posted on my journey there. The other cool thing is I had a slow leak in my other Aero Classic 850s tubeless tires. These, while they're tubeless, they're self-contained. I hope that makes sense. And I think having watched the video, you'll understand what I mean. So there's no air seeping out where the clamshell meets. You can run these to a much lower tire pressure. I think the minimum recommended is 8. That's where I've got them right now. You can go higher than that, of course, but then I know guys that fly these down to like 4 PSI. So I'll test around and play with that. Speaking of which, I am going to put it back into phase 1 flight test and treat this like a major modification. Some would argue it might not be a major modification, but I'm just going to treat it like that. Go single pilot ops and limit myself to close into the airport and really put these things through the ringer. And of course, I'll update you guys as I do that. Things I'm going to test, obviously, taxiing. I'm going to test out the brakes. I've been warned, hey, heads up, you're not going to have the braking power that you used to. I didn't upgrade the brakes at all. I've got dual puck MATCOs, so the braking power will definitely be a thing that I'll need to test through. And then, of course, the aerodynamics of these things. Okay, there's more drag lower on the aircraft. Again, I think that's a good thing because this has a pretty big pitch up moment when you add power, pitch down when you reduce power. I think this will reduce that a little bit, reference the CG discussion from before. And then, of course, just the landing technique. You're going to be sitting higher up off the ground. Your visibility while taxiing around is a lot lower. Speaking of which, I need to put a camera in the front of this cowl. I haven't got a plan for that quite yet. If you know of a camera and a way to install it, then let me know. But that's another thing that I'm thinking about. Okay, there's probably stuff that I'm missing, but I got to go fly the Bonanza because I'm about to leave for a week down to Patagonia. Hopefully you guys will see an episode with some great adventures with the Patagonia Bush pilots in Argentina. So we're looking forward to that. All right, I'm going to wrap this one up. Thanks to the sponsor of this episode, LiftAviationUSA.com. The guys have invited me to be a Team Lift Aviation pilot. I love their helmet. I love their gear, and I can't recommend them enough. I'll have a discount code in the description of this video. Till next time, it's Steve. You're cleared direct.